Hello and welcome, friend. I am excited you are here today. I'm going to show you a really quick tutorial, something that I love and use all the time in my design work with my marketing collateral and just lots of things that I do. So it is how to create a really pretty faux foil effect in Adobe Illustrator. Now, there have been some other tutorials that have been already released. I've seen them before, and a lot of them use an actual image of gold foil. So they'll like search for literally gold foil, and then they'll show you how to create a clipping mask with that image. Now, that's just a different style. I prefer to actually create the faux gold foil effect, or not just gold, but any foil effect digitally. I like the way it looks a little bit better that way. It looks a little bit more like it blends and it makes sense to me. So I'm going to teach you that way to do it. It's not actually using an image and masking it onto whatever shape or icon or whatever you're doing. It is actually creating a digital gold or foil effect. So I'm going to quickly show you on my blog a recent example of a time that I used this faux gold foil look. And it's, I gave away this printable, this Wake Work wine printable, and you can see here, this is actually, the frame is not faux gold foil, but the actual Wake Work wine words are in that faux foil style. So if you look at the W's, and when I hover over my image, it kind of grays out a little bit, so I'm going to quickly do this. If you look at the W's to the E's, it's sort of a subtle shift, but there is a shift in color, and that is what I'm talking about with the foil effect. Any sort of foil, it's metallic, so that way it bounces light. And you guys know that when you're looking at foil in person, it has this pretty gradient effect of where it, where the light hits it, it's really bright, and where the light is not necessarily hitting it, it gets a little darker. And so that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. It's how to create a gradient, but how to make it look like foil with your gradient. So let's get to it. Okay. So in Adobe Illustrator, you'll see that this is actually, I already created this shape, and this is that exact same foil, we'll call it a recipe if you want to, that I used in that art printable. And I'm going to give you my, my color code so that way you can create the same gradient if you want, but this is something we'll use in just a moment. So for you to do this, what I want you to do is just to create a new document in Adobe Illustrator. So you're going to go File up here, New, choose your file size, whatever it is. If you're creating something like a printable, you might do like an 8x10 or a 5x7. Right now, just for the sake of doing this tutorial, we're just going to create a box like this canvas, and I'm going to show you how to make this happen for yourself. So we're going to hit OK. So we have a new blank document here. So what I want you to do first, before we try anything else, is to create a rectangle. We're just going to create a shape to apply a gradient to. So over here in your tools panel, just select the rectangle tool. You can also hit M to select that tool, or if you're a Mac user, I'm not 100% sure what your shortcut is, but you can just come over here and select it, and then we're just going to draw a rectangle. It doesn't matter what size it is, we're just drawing one. So this is a rectangle. It is filled currently with the color white, and it has a black stroke, which is basically just an outline. And I'm going to remove the stroke, so this might be cut off for you, but it looks like a little square in there that's red. And then, and so now it's filled with the color white. We want to fill it with a gradient, or we want to make it look like foil, right? So down here in your tools panel, you'll see this is the current color of your rectangle or your shape is white. It has no stroke. You can see that here. down underneath that, you can see this is a fill. It's like a color fill. So if you wanted your rectangle to be a solid color, this would be highlighted, which it currently is. If you wanted it to be a gradient, which is what we're going to learn how to do today, you would select that, and that automatically changes it to a gradient. Now this black and white gradient is kind of like the default gradient that appears in, or when you select gradient in Illustrator. And so this is where we're going to play and get our gradient to look like the way we want to. Now, this is a pretty drastic gradient. It goes all the way from the shade of white to all the way to the shade of black. That is not a very subtle gradient. When it comes to your gradient, it's really going to be up to your personal preference. If you want something that looks really, really dramatic, you might want your colors to be drastically different. In this case, white and black is drastically different. If you look at my gradient, which we're going to pull up again, you can see like it's almost hard to tell the difference between one side and the other right now. But once let's click back to my website real fast. If you look at it here, when it's actually applied to text or a smaller object, not a giant rectangle, you can see the shift in color. And that is just a personal preference that I like. I like a little bit more of a subtle foil effect as opposed to a super dramatic one. I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic as opposed to, you know, a gradient like the black and white where it's just super dramatic. Like that just doesn't look realistic to me. So that is why like you'll see that there's not a huge change in my gradient colors. They're very subtle. But it's really a personal preference. If you want it to be more of a change and you want more of the foil look, you would just make your colors, more drastically different, like white versus black. Now, let me show you what I mean. What are you talking about colors, Megan? Okay, if you go over here, once you select gradient in your tools panel that you want to apply to this shape, you'll look over here and you'll see the gradient window pops up. This is a linear gradient, meaning it goes from one side to the other. You could do a radial gradient. This is like, you know, from the center to the outsides. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like the linear look better. Right here, this angle, this is the angle of where basically we're going to call it like the light is hitting. Let's call it that. So right now our light is hitting here, so this is why this would be very bright, and it gets darker over here because the light's not over here. So that's the easiest way I can explain it. You can change that. The gradient I used in the gold document is 80. And you can see it just changes the angle of where your gradient begins. So it's really up to you. Do you want your light to come from the bottom? Do you want it to come from, you know, this side, that side, whatever works for you. So you can just play around with the angle. And also, like, if you wanted your darkest color, say if you said, if you wanted -80, it's not gonna switch black to the other side. It's going to, black will always be on this side, or the side that it's on. Like you can see white is over here, black is over here. You would literally just switch black to this side of your canvas. So in the gradient slider, you would double click this color and select black, and now black is over here. You could double click this one and select white, and now white is over here. So hopefully that makes sense. So this slider right here is where you control those colors. So you can pick any color in the world. You don't have to do a foil effect. You can make a gradient out of any color. It could be teal, purple, pink, whatever excites you and works for your brand. But for today's purposes, we're trying to learn how to make it look like a faux foil effect. So we're going to try to make it look metallic as opposed to just a simple color gradient. So the reason why I created this rectangle is so I could easily pull my my colors in for you so you can see. And like I said, I will drop those in the blog post, so if you want to recreate my gold, you could easily do that. Okay, so I am going to double click on this side of the slider. Right now you're looking at the CMYK color. code, it's probably easiest to do the RGB, the red, green, blue, and you can, this is a hex code right here, where whenever you see like the pound sign or the hashtag, I don't know what you want to call it, sign, and then you see these series of letters or numbers, that's called a hex code. We're going to copy paste that, and I'm going to, oh, come on, there we go. I'm going to click it into here. So you would double click. On this side, it's showing you, again, the CMYK value. We want to go to RGB, and we want to paste in the hex code. And then hit enter. So now you can see my gradient, because I still have white on this side, my gradient is only showing the light color of my gold. So I want to pull in the dark color of my gold. I'm going to go back here. Now, the reason why I'm copy pasting from one canvas is the other, so you can see how you can input these colors, but I'm going to also show you how I got these colors in just a moment. So we're going to go to RGB. We want to highlight the hex code. I'm going to copy it, which is Control-C on my PC. Whatever your shortcut is on the Mac, I'm not sure. Sorry, y'all. I'm not a Mac user. So over here, you would double click your slider on this side, and we want to go to the RGB, and we want to paste in our darkest shade of gold, and that is how we got that effect. So hopefully that makes sense. Easy enough. Like, this is a gradient. It is very, very subtle, especially when you're looking at it in this large format of a rectangle. It's a very subtle look. One thing I want to show you is up here, back in your color, back in this top panel of tools. This is where all of your colors and your just your shades or whatever, your patterns, they live. I'm having a brain moment. What are the swatches? That's what they're called. This is your swatch panel right here. So one thing that you can do once you make a gradient that you really like, so in this case, my gradient, once you find a formula that you really like, you can save it in your swatch panel. So you can hit new swatch, and we can call this gold. And now this is in my swatch panel. So now let me show you what you can do. Let's say we can X out this rectangle. So now it doesn't matter that my rectangle is there or not. I have my foil swatch saved. So we can now apply our gold foil to anything you can imagine. If you have an icon, I can show you how to do this real fast. Let's pull this in. Let's do lots of folders. All right, let's say we have a heart icon that we want to use. Okay, so this is a little heart or two little hearts. You can select your icon. I'm going to copy it. This is in a new canvas, so I want to put it on the canvas that I was working with. So I'm going to paste it. So now I have these cute little hearts in my canvas. This is like whatever you're designing. You want to add a cute icon. So now what I can do, this icon is actually filled with a blue color. Now I just want to make it gold. So now, boom, I have a pretty faux gold foil icon. And that is what I wanted to explain to you today, is how to create your full gold foil or whatever color foil, and then be able to apply it to anything. You can do this to text. I'm going to cut that out of my document. So if you come over here and hit the type tool, you can just select on your canvas, and I'm going to say hello. And then I'm going to highlight it and make the text way bigger. Oh, let's make it a lot bigger than that. Okay, so this is hello. You can change the type of text you want up here in the character. You can format it to whatever you like. Okay, so say we have this text called hello. Now, you can't just directly apply a gradient to text like this. You can't, it's not the same as like a shape or an image that you can paste it onto. It's not like that. What you have to do first when it comes to text is you have to come up here to, sorry, give me a second, edit. You have to come up here to edit, and then you are, wait, no, let me have a second. Oh, object, I'm sorry. You're gonna come up here to object, so you're gonna select your whole text like this with your select tool. Come up here to object, you're gonna hit expand. And this little window is gonna pop up, and you're wanting to expand the object and fill it, and then you hit okay. Now this expand basically says this is no longer type. So before it was the word hello was literal type. You could highlight that text, you could change the text. Now it has created each letter into its own shape. So now it's no longer a piece of text, it's actually a shape, which is what we were doing before. When we created a rectangle, we created a shape. And so that's how you can apply gradients, is by creating shapes. But if I were to apply my gradient right now, let's show you what happens. Each and every letter, if you can see this, has, let me try to zoom in for you. Each and every letter has its own shape, just like I explained to you before. So you can actually see subtly, like this H goes from light gold to dark gold. This E goes from light gold to dark gold. So that is not an actual, that's not a natural foil look, right? Foil isn't applied to singular objects. Foil is, the foil look spans across an entire object, not just, or an entire like canvas or page or image or whatever you want to call it. So this is how you fix this problem. So you're going to select this whole text, go back to, let's go to object, and you're going to come down here to compound path. Now, since, like I said, each and every letter is its own shape, we want to make the word itself an entire shape, just one large shape, as opposed to individual shapes with the letters. So that's what a compound path does. It takes multiple paths or shapes or whatever you want to call it, and it transforms it into one large shape. So we're going to hit make. You can also hit Control 8 if you are a PC user, and that is the shortcut to going to object compound make. And now you can see, since our gold foil is already applied, that over here starting in H, it's in my lightest color gold, and then it's going darker, 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 darker till it gets to my darkest shade over here in the exclamation point. And that is the faux gold foil look. So not too hard, hopefully. So that's how you do it to text. And I love this this concept of adding the foil effect on text. I do it all the time. You can see it just in that, like that printable I showed you. You can just use this in all different sorts of ways. I know a lot of people love the foil look within their branding, so that is how you create it. And the reason why I like using Illustrator is because you're using what's called vector shapes. So it doesn't matter how large I make this shape, it's never going to get distorted or pixelated or anything like that. So it will always look this good no matter what size I increase or decrease it to. So that's why I wanted to teach you how to do it in Illustrator. Okay, so let me zoom out. Now, how exactly did I get these colors? That's what I want to wrap up this quick tutorial with. So literally what I did is pull an image of something that is metallic, and I pulled out those colors. I would select them and then just kind of find the formula that I like best. So let me show you how I do this. So quickly here, I did a Google search for rose gold. That's all I searched. You could search for gold, you could search silver, rose gold, whatever kind of metal you want to emulate, you can do that. So this first image that pops up is this ring, And you can see, like, especially with all metallics, there's different shades and tones within metals. So this one's a very warm tone rose gold. This one's a very cool tone rose gold. You kind of just search for whatever color you like, or whatever shade or tone or whatever kind of just catches your eye. But I just clicked on the first one, and this is that image right here. It's from a jewelry store, and we're not going to copy and use this image. We're trying to pull out the colors of the rose gold to create our gradient. So what I'm going to do here is we want to do what's called print screen, and most keyboards come with print screen. It's a button. So I'm going to hit print screen on my keyboard, and basically that it's like making a copy of my screen to my clipboard. And then let's come here, and I'm going to paste this image. So I just pasted the image of what was on my screen. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit again. So what I'm doing here is I want to create a new gradient, just like I showed you before, how I went from white to black to this gold color. What I want to do is create a new gradient color in rose gold. So I'm going to select what if you were doing it here, you would just select the shape because that's where the gradient is lying. I'm going to select our text that we just did and made into a compound path and a gradient on top of that, and we're going to edit from there. So what I'm going to do is select this. Actually, let me do my color picker first. I apologize. So this is, you're going to go over here to your tools panel and hit eyedropper tool. First we have to actually select the color before we can apply it to a gradient. So this is in essence going to, let me select out of my text. If I was still selecting on my text, I'm sorry y'all, if I was still selecting on my text and I did this eyedropper tool, you'll see what happens. It's gonna change it to a solid color, and I don't want to do that yet. So let me hit Control Z, undo that. I'm gonna select off of my shape and text and pull out a hex code for you. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my eyedropper on this section of the ring right here. It almost looks matte right here where this ring is, because that's a pretty light color compared to, say, over here, which is pretty dark, or even here is darker than that light color. So I'm gonna select here, and you see this like peach color pops up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double click on that peach color, and it brings up the color picker. Now this is the hex code right here, and that's, remember before when we applied our gold colors to the white and black gradient, I had you pull the hex colors. So it's automatically highlighted. You can just copy it. So I'm going to hit Control C, copy that color. And now let me select my text again. Now I want to apply that color to my light side of my gradient. So I'm going to go to RGB, and then I'm going to hit Control V and paste that color in. And now I have this like half rose gold, half gold gradient thing going on. So we want to change it to where it's all rose gold color looking. That all rose gold color looking. Oh man. Okay, so now we have half of the formula done. We need to go pick another color from our ring image to really pull in this whole style of rose gold. So I'm going to, again, click off of my text, make sure my text is not selected. Then I'm going to go back to my tools panel, hit the eyedropper tool. And then I'm going to just select around. I'm going to kind of like look, again, I'm looking here to see like what shade pops up with my eyedropper. I'm going to kind of like just pop around and see like what shade I like. So that shade's not bad. Again, you're gonna have to play with this a little to get the right formula that you like. Let's try this one. So I'm gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna come back and select my text, and then highlight the darkest side of my slider, and then paste in my new color. Okay, so that didn't shift enough in my opinion. I would still probably come back to my ring and try to find a darker color that I liked. So let's come back. Let's shift it. This is darker, I think. So this is how I get my actual color shades. I kind of just play with it until I can find a formula that I like. Oh, sorry, I hit the T. Let me come back here and hit this. There we go. Okay, go to RGB. Okay, so that shifted it more. So now it looks a lot more like rose gold than before. Before you couldn't really tell where the light was hitting versus where it's darker at all, but now you can. So that is how you create a faux foil effect. Obviously you would want to use metallic colors, so like gold or rose gold or silver or really whatever you can dream up. But that's how you do it. So you can use like my colors, you can use this color if you want. If you don't like the way that this rose gold color looks, you can, again, just come back to your Google search, find a different image to play with, or pull from their colors, and just do it until you kind of find a formula that you love. And that's exactly how I created my own gold foil formula. Just kind of playing around with different images and styles of colors and tones of gold to make something that I really liked. So that's that. I hope this was easy enough. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at megan@meganmartin.net, and I will pop that below. And so happy foiling, friends.